Welcome, everyone. Another experiment. This live stream, you can't see, but I have two cameras set up, will be also uploaded to my podcast, Unspeakable Bliss. And so today, I've been reflecting on this over the past 2 days, but much longer than that as well. And I wanted to offer an experience, and also before diving into the experience, the meditation part, talk about the framework. And I don't know if you could see this on Instagram, but I named it Direct Experience Meditation and Contemplation. So first I'll say there's no excuse me, religiosity, religious beliefs necessary to go on this exploration. And I'll start by speaking from the mental plane, a scientific plane, and I'm actually going to reference two really interesting facts of science that relate to today's contemplation and investigation, and also say that the mental plane is inextricably connected to the experiential plane, because where is any scientist making any discovery from? The present moment, their present moment, this moment. This is the moment when those discoveries uh, are uncovered or revealed. And in that same way, I will invite you throughout this investigation with me to see if this is does what I'm sharing and pointing at withstand the test of your own experience. Because to me, that's what philosophy, a lived philosophy, even to say a lived philosophy is technically redundant, because to me, if a philosophy is not derived from and also a direct result of my own experience, then I'm not sure how useful it's going to be. So here's these two interesting facts, scientific facts, if you will, that am going to uh, dive into here. First one is known in science, in the science world, as the hard problem of consciousness. What is the hard problem of consciousness? Well, it's the fact, the mystery, rather, that science does not understand, nor can it find the source of consciousness. Yet, this is a very, to me, intriguing yet, it makes an omission uh, that we are all conscious. No one is denying that we're conscious. And what I mean by consciousness and the source of consciousness, I mean the very thing. I hesitate to even say thing, because it's the subject that experiences all objects. So it's that which is seeing the phone screen. It is that which is hearing this audio right now. It's that which is feeling your own body. It's that which thoughts occur to, that which emotions occur to. And it's kind of funny, because even before we get to the meditation, and I'll talk about certain practices and things that I've done to arrive at this understanding. But what's kind of funny about it is it's ever present. And again, science is even saying that, yeah, there's consciousness. We just don't know what the source of it is. So there was the idea that it is derived from the brain, yet when scientists cut open a brain and look for it, consciousness is nowhere to be found. Yet it is the very aspect of that which is looking at that brain. And here's the other piece that's that's funny about it too is although I'll talk about these practices and we'll do a quote unquote meditation to experience this, it is that which is being experienced at all time. It is the emness, the suchness, the awareness that is witnessed us, that has witnessed myself throughout every transitory changing moment of my life, of our lives, I dare say. And I dare say that because there are two tenets here. There's the two facts that I'm getting through the first one, the hard problem of consciousness, and then the two tenets, the spoiler alert or punchline is that we are all interconnected. We are all one in a very intimate, mind blowing way. And the second piece to that is that the nature of that oneness is inherently free, is inherently liberated. There's nothing that can be done to get to it because that is already what is. And what I mean by that, what I mean by already what is how can we take a step closer to ourselves? Cody's on the live stream. Hello, my friend. How can we get to where we already are, to what we already are? And again, to what science says, yeah, consciousness, it exists. What everyone is experiencing, that exists, but we don't know what it is. And so that leads to the second piece, which is the nature of that is inherently whole, free, liberated, peaceful, happy. But I'm talking about a happiness and a peace and a liberation without opposite, because it is the ground of being itself. And to me, this is what all of the religion, the spirituality, the essence of all of the world's great known religions, Buddhism, Christianity, Hinduism, and more. This is the essential experience of the mystics and those that have lived this, and it's already looking through your eyes. And there's some of you know, some of you know that I think it's one of the gospels. I don't know which gospel, or to be frank, I don't even know exactly if it is from a gospel, but somewhere it says, "For those that have ears to hear, maybe even eyes to see too." And again, I'm simply pointing towards the source of all of our experiences. I am happy. I am sad. I am cold. I am hot. It's the I am. So, all right, I'll get to the second piece here. The second fact of science on the mental plane, and that mental plane does uh, mm, dissolve, or there's an end point to it, because again, this is the invitation is that it's our direct experience already. So describing something, and that's what science does. Science, and please feel free to fact check me on any of this. Science describes patterns. It doesn't say what anything actually is. It doesn't say what the essential substance of reality is, the ontology. So again, it doesn't know, number one, the source of consciousness. Like, well, we all admit that it exists, but where is it? What is it? Where is it coming from? Is it coming from somewhere, or is that all that is? And so the second piece is science, as well as not knowing the source of consciousness, doesn't say what things are. So they can describe a pattern and give a description to, let's say, a molecule, an electron, a proton, a neutron, but that is only describing a pattern. It's a description of what is, but what is a mystery. So do you see the connection that I'm making here? Science does not know the source of consciousness, nor does it know what anything actually is. Well, maybe, as far as I can tell, it's all a modulation and this is consciousness appearing in the way that it is. And it has these different appearances, but it's all only made up of consciousness. And this goes into the meditative aspect. So your eyes can remain open, they can remain, you can close them if you would like. An invitation to notice thoughts, to notice stories, narratives. I know I have this very popular story in my mind called the story of Christopher. But what is that story appearing to? Who is that story appearing to? Who is the story of you, of your life appearing to? That's what I'm pointing at, the source of those thoughts, the source of those stories, the source of those emotions, the source of those sensations. And it's on this note that I'll talk about the what's sometimes known as the direct path of liberation, of meditation. Again, how can I take a step closer to myself? I'm already myself. You are already yourself. So, although there's this practice known as contemplation or meditation or plant medicine ceremonies or 7 day, I have a friend that just did a 49-day darkness retreat. Although these seem to be helpful, and I do admit that I do feel that these different practices, parts work, another practice, although they're helpful, it's only supported me in arriving where I already always was. See, there's this strange, maybe completely ordinary knowing that it's always been this way for me, even before I went on the path of meditating for thousands of hours, plant medicine ceremonies. It's just been confirmed left and right. Me, 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 me. And that is why there is the inherent freedom, liberation, peacefulness, happiness without opposite to this understanding. And this is where the mental plane, because I can describe it all I want, I can use words to point to this, but I'm only pointing to myself, to what is, to an interconnected plane of being. And so, why is this helpful? Why would anybody want to intentionally, with intention and attention, because that to me is what I've been using in these practices? I'm placing my intention in being in communion with this understanding that we are all one. And that's it happens to be exactly what I'm experiencing. That's my intention and my attention, training the attention. Well, I don't know exactly what perspective you have, but I believe that our current world, the world that I occupy and live in and see on screens, it could definitely use practices in elongating attention span, our attention span. There's a study that says the human's attention span is something like close to that of a goldfish. And that's why I'm choosing to use this platform of social media and my podcast to support elongating, re-elongating, remembering, recognizing, to recognize a longer attention span so that we can realize with the attention and the intention the nature of our shared being. So why is it helpful? I did a really fancy dance around answering my own question there. Well, it's helpful because when I realize that if my if someone else's arm is cut, let's use an injury for example, it's very much so, very intimately my arm that bleeds. And also if I help another heal that wound, I'm helping myself heal a wound because there's no evidence experientially through this understanding, this embodied understanding, not just on a mental plane. There is no evidence for separation. What would that, what would evidence for separation even be like? And what do I mean by no evidence for separation? So there's qualitative differences. Like I'm putting my hands together because I can very much feel where these fingertips end and where they're meeting these fingertips. And being a human being inhabiting a body, that's very helpful, right? When I cross the street, so I don't get hit by a car and I'm oriented, my attention is oriented inside my body, or when I drink this water. If I didn't know where my hand ended and this glass began, I might pour it all over my laptop or never get it to my mouth and then die of dehydration. And that wouldn't be helpful for the physical organism's life. So that is really all I can say. Yes, that's right. So although there are these differences, the qualitative differences of consciousness or of the experience of being aware, I know I certainly am not the same person exactly that I was when I was a baby, right? Although that is helpful and useful for the organism to describe this understanding that I'm speaking of, leads to the recognition that there's no fundamental separation. There's no fundamental separation. How could there be anything outside of the all that is? What would that even look like? How could there be anything outside of God, universe, spirit, the self, consciousness, whatever word I give to it? I'm just pointing to the same thing. So there's these two sides to this coin. One, it's incredibly helpful again to know that I'm here in this body, so I can press end on this video or send a specific text message or cross the street without getting hit by a car. But at the same time, simultaneously, paradoxically, I am one with the phone, one with the my the water when I drink the water, one with the car. But a friend of mine in the spiritual psychology program I went to, we would do a grounding exercise after a weekend of working with ourselves and with each other in the room, and we would have to ground into our physical bodies because some people after these trainings apparently had been hit by a car. And so me and my friend made up this saying that we're all one until you're roadkill. So again, it's the two sides of this coin. we're all one, and there's distinct qualities in the way consciousness appears, maybe so that we can experience ourselves and experience the seemingly endless, at least just on the human level, 8 billion and counting varieties of the self. But I just want to hammer home the point before closing out this contemplation and meditation, and I'll go deeper into the meditation after sharing this, is that the consequence of knowing this, deeply knowing, in an embodied knowing, an integrated knowing, not just the mental knowing, but I'm using that word knowing. The root of it is gnosis, and that means a lived experiential understanding. The consequence is one, living in a more peaceful life for oneself, but also contributing to living in a world that follows the understanding that we're all connected. And again, I don't know about you, but when I look at the different wars in the world and the disparity and even in myself, sometimes in my partnership, I can hear words from my fiance. She'll share something with me, and all of a sudden I'm like, and I don't know, feel separate, but I'm aware that I've tensed up. And I believe that that's a result, in some cases, of trauma that gets passed down through seeing others do that in the world that we live in. 'Cause check this out. I was contemplating this 2 days ago as well. Everyone that's alive now at some point was a baby, was a child, a mother's, a father's child. And then somehow, when we become adults, uh, somehow through trauma, trauma just keeps going on repeat. That's what kind of the nature of trauma is. Defense mechanism as a result of the trauma, fight, flight, or freeze, and then our self kind of fragments. It fragments to protect ourselves, and then that's what gets passed down, and we arrive in a world, global, individual situation that we're in. Okay, now that's about all I can say on this. So I'll end with the meditative portion. So invitation, if you would like to lower your eyelids if they're not already. Of course, if you're not driving, if you're in a safe space to do that. And an invitation to take a few intentionally deeper breaths down into the belly. And allowing the breath to return to a natural rhythm. And notice, what is at the source of your breath? What is it that which is aware of breathing? Not even necessarily trying to find anything, but just looking at what is this that is aware of breath. The common name that we give to that which is aware as a way of pointing to it is I. I am that which is aware of breathing. I am aware of the sensation of breath flowing in and out, arising and falling. And in the same way, notice that which is aware of thoughts, noticing the seeming space or source in which thoughts arise. I am aware of thoughts. And this can help and create a distance from thoughts instead of thinking that we are, that I am the thought itself. I am that which is aware of thoughts. And if there's any emotions present, noticing that which is aware of emotions, regardless of the intensity. No idea what you're experiencing or going through in your life, but whether there's a strong emotion or maybe there's just a more quiet excitation, emotion, just noticing that which is aware of emotions. And now, an invitation if you have closed your eyes, if you've lowered your eyelids, to open them. Look around the room or the space that you occupy. Maybe you're outside. Maybe looking to the phone screen. And as we're working with the visual field, noticing that which is aware of this rich array of visual experiences, looking at the source. What is that which is aware of this current visual experience? For me, the answer is I. I am. And the same thing is true when I lower my eyelids. There's sort of outlines from having had my eyes open, black and white. And again, it is this I. So your eyes may remain open or closed, whatever you prefer. And let's apply the same principle to sound. What is it that is aware of sound? What is the source? What is in the center of the sounds that you're hearing right now, including my own voice? This can also be, of course, applied to taste and touch. What is that which is aware of maybe your legs on the chair that you're sitting on? What is that which is aware of your physical sensations? Again, for me, the answer is I am. I am. So this ends the meditative portion of this live stream. And again, I would point to something that I pointed to earlier in this. My attempt here is to simply point to what is already here and now. This amness, the source of consciousness, which I see no edge to. I experience no fundamental separation. Of course, yes, there's the phone screen, and that's useful to press the buttons and things like that, but there's no separation in consciousness from an experiential level. And so my invitation, and this aligns to what I talked about with intention and attention, my invitation that I feel uh, obliged to share is that although through intentional practices and attentional practices, putting our effort towards what in some cases is known as seeking understanding, seeking the truth. Although there's all of these different approaches, there's so many different meditation techniques, breathwork techniques, yoga, texts, sacred texts to read, plant medicine journeys, retreats, all of these different ways of quote unquote improving ourselves or arriving at this. My question is, can you, how can I take a step closer to myself? I am already myself. And throughout this stream, I've used the words self and consciousness and God and the universe synonymously. It is that which is aware. And although for me, there were a set of remembrances or awakenings, there's this incredibly extraordinary knowledge or experience that this has always been this way. So again, that's the direct path of realizing, remembering ourselves. Now, this isn't to say that there are parts that take longer to remember. For me, that's absolutely been true. I recognize, I'm aware of moments, speaking in front of people, moments in my intimate partnership, or even moments with friends and others where I realize there is a sense of contraction. So, although this is true that we're already this, there does appear to be a journey. And for me, that's as simple as, again, looking at my own intimate relationships, but also looking at the state of the world and the world that I'm living in. It really, really looks like it could benefit from more liberation, more peace, more freedom, more communion, coming into union with the real, the true, with this understanding. So that's the journey that I'm walking, and I'll end with a quote from Alan Watts, because I realize, although I find myself sharing things like this and doing work and retreats and the different modalities, creations that I engage in, the reason, before I get to the quote, I'll share this. The reason that I'm doing this is because this is what's most natural to me. I've followed the curiosities of my heart's desires. So, although from one perspective, I do feel that it can be incredibly helpful and useful and liberating for all beings, I'm not exactly doing it only for that reason. I'm doing this because this is what brings me the most joy and where my creativity comes alive. So I guess that is my encouragement, is to follow the curiosity naturally, just like a tree growing, or the river flowing naturally, just like nature, because we are an extension. We are, as far as I can see, a part of nature, a part of this earth. I've just followed my heart. So I do this. I share poetry, the little movie creations that I've begun from a place of joy, where the means and the ends are one. My So just a quick side note on that, and I'll share the quote. Uh, I was When I was in college. Forgive me for those that have heard this before, because I talk about it all the time on the podcast, or often, not all the time. I was studying accounting, and I was a sophomore in college. And why was I studying accounting? Was it because I thought accounting would be the way that I can make the greatest contribution to the world, or that was my own heart's natural curiosity? No and no. And maybe accounting is that for some people. That's wonderful, to live in a world where that is performed by someone that deeply inspires them. But for me, it wasn't. I was listening to a voice in my head, a voice of society. It's not even like my mom and my dad ever said, "We want you to study accounting." No, I studied accounting because that's the thing that was going to make me the most amount of money in what I thought was the shortest amount of time. But then I realized that it was like these two parts of me fighting. This one part said, wait a minute, I thought I went to college. I understand this is not the reason why everyone goes to college, but I thought I went to college because now I can study and give my life, my what I'm going to spend the most amount of my time doing, what matters most to me. And then the other part was saying, "Oh, you have to do the thing that's going to make the most amount of money." That wasn't my voice. That wasn't coming from my own heart. So fortunately, I went to a liberal arts school, which was truly liberal arts at this time, which meant I had to study an array of different things. And that meant I was in a philosophy class. And in my philosophy class, one of my professors, I believe it was Dr. Michael Ang, said the only reason anyone would study philosophy is if they want to live a happy life. And I said, sign me up for that. That makes sense. Some of the other students in the class, I think they looked around and were like, I just gotta take this class to fulfill my credits and graduate. Me, on the other hand, I was like, living a happy life, and that being the only reason anyone would study philosophy or embody and live a philosophy, sign me up for that. It was like we did a mic drop with Plato's Republic, and also acting. There was a theater program available from the university I graduated from. Actually, I'm the only one to graduate with the theater track from this university, because no one else ever took it. dissolved it actually upon graduating. But anyway, again, another instance where the means and the ends were the same. Play for the sake of play. That is why I chose to pursue theater and philosophy, where the means and the ends were not different. I decided, it was a big moment for me. It was like the first time I made a decision for myself without consulting anyone else or asking for permission from anyone else. I said, this makes sense to me. This makes sense to give my life force energy, one of the most valuable things that I have to offer, but I'm going to spend most of my time doing, to do the thing that means the most to me for the sake of itself. And this is again why I'm ending with this encouragement of following your heart's deepest curiosity. See where it takes you. I'm here. And the quote from Alan Watts that I want to end by sharing, because this has to do with helping, the profession of helping. And maybe it will resonate with you if you know someone in that profession, or maybe you yourself are in that profession of some kind too. Kindly let me help you, the monkey said to the fish as he took him out of the water and placed him into the tree. How helpful is that really for that fish? And so I'm acutely, detrimentally, I've definitely got myself into some trouble thinking that I'm doing the right thing and I'm the one helping. But that's not why I do this anymore. I appreciate the side effect that it does seem to bring more peace and joy and authenticity to people's lives. But the reason that I'm doing it is because I'm following my own heart's curiosity. All right, this was comprehensive and much longer than I thought. I recorded this video yesterday and it was only 8 minutes, but I didn't end up sharing it because I knew there was more to share here. So comment, let me know what you think. Let me know what your experience was if you feel inspired to do that. This will also be, again, available. This is part of the Unspeakable Bliss podcast, so I will be uploading this and a number of other live streams that I've done recently to my podcast, Unspeakable Bliss. Thank you for tuning in. And again, if you feel compelled to share your experience with this contemplation and meditation and the sharing that I've done here, I'm happy to hear what your experience has been. All right. Thank you for joining. Bless you, bless your path, bless your journey. See you in the next creation.